In a rematch of last year's college football playoff semifinals, Alabama and Michigan get set to do battle down in Tampa in the ReliaQuest Bowl. We are here previewing, predicting, and breaking down this game between the Crimson Tide and the Wolverines. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Phillips. He's Dave Shumate. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast, where we get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, SECUnfiltered.com. This segment brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com, use promo code SECU at sign up to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 or more lineup. That's prizepicks.com, promo code SECU to get your $50 bonus today. The Alabama Crimson Tide and Michigan Wolverines get set to do battle down in Tampa in the ReliaQuest Bowl. We are here previewing, predicting, and breaking down this game. I am Chris Phillips, and helping me do so, my good friend Dave Shumate joins me once again. Dave, what's going on, my man? Appreciate you taking the time and excited to break down this game with you.
Yeah, you're right, CP. You know, a little bit different vibe, a little bit not as much on the line as what we saw in Pasadena last year in the final season of the 14 playoff. I mean, what do we get? I mean, you got Michigan coming in with some kind of momentum. Excuse our dog over here who's a little sick, but Michigan comes in. Brady, Michigan comes in with
that's just his thoughts of Alabama, Michigan this year's version. That's
apparently, yeah. Last year he'd be jumping up here with excitement, but no, he's sitting underneath me. But no, I mean, Michigan comes in with momentum after beating Ohio State. Even that was a little bit of an ugly performance from Michigan. Alabama comes in. I mean, they beat Auburn. They beat their in-state rival as well. But, man, just totally missed in the playoffs, obviously, with the game in Oklahoma. Just a total weird dynamic here with this entire game across the board. It's like you said, this is the definition. I think I've done a lot of videos today, like the motivation in Georgia Tech Vandy's there, South Carolina, Illinois is there. This one a little bit, CP, and I think you agree, is like, I don't know, man. Whoever wakes up that morning in Tampa fired up to come play probably is going to win this game. The good news for Alabama, Jalen Milroe is playing. I think, again, you know me, I've had my conversations about him. But, man, we got a lot of opt-outs and a lot of transfer portal guys involved in this game. So it's hard to keep up with.
As you mentioned, Dave, again, motivation factor going to be key. This game being played on New Year's Eve, Tuesday, December the 31st, a noon Eastern time kickoff on ESPN down there in Tampa at Raymond James Stadium. Alabama, even with the opt-outs, like you mentioned, still a 10.5-point favorite in this football game. The over-under is set at 43. The series history, it's tied 3-3, and, of course, who can forget the last time these two teams met? It was earlier this year in a thriller. Michigan beat Alabama 27-20 to punch their ticket to the national title, and, of course, they were the eventual national champions. And, Dave, that was the final game of Nick Saban as a collegiate head coach. So, again, a very notable last meeting, like you mentioned. This one, very, very different than that last go-around that we saw earlier this year. Dave, I want to start with this. Again, you mentioned the opt-outs. Can you give us the list of players? Because, again, it is a laundry list for both sides that are high-impact players. Again, you've seen probably at this point Alabama fans on the timeline that have been sort of reeling with some of the guys that have been hitting the transfer portal. The latest, obviously, Jalen Milroe, who we've talked about over here at SEC Unfiltered. But, Dave, do you have that list of all of these different portal guys? Because I'm sure there's many people watching this that are like, I can't even keep up with all the guys not playing in this football game.
And you even mentioned Jalen Milroe. I mean, the reports right now saying he's meeting with Kalen DeBoer and them today. So he's not officially gone yet. It sounds like he's still kind of determining that decision's still up in the air. But for the rest of the guys from Michigan, Donovan Edwards and Mason Graham are both out. The running back, Donovan Edwards, really good player for Michigan. Obviously, Mason Graham will be a big-time draft pick as well. Cole Cabana, running back as well for Michigan's out. Punter Tommy Domain is out. He's entering the
punter's out. The punter's out.
Raheem Anderson, an offensive lineman for Michigan's out. Tavir Dunlap, running back. A lot of the running backs are out. Christian Bovin, linebacker for Michigan's out. Kobe Prentice just went committed to Baylor today, wide receiver from Alabama. He's out. Jaleel Hurley, a corner, is out. Keanu Coate, edge from Alabama. He's already committed to Vanderbilt. He's been out. And then Jaheim Otis, defensive lineman's been out since the week after the Vanderbilt game. I think he's been in the portal since September, but I think he's going to end up going to Colorado and playing for Prime. And then, so there's a lot of guys who are out of this game potentially. A lot of transfer portal guys, maybe even more added because, again, this game is what on December? What do we say? December 31st.
Yep, New Year's Eve.
Yeah, New Year's Eve morning. So still opportunity again. Maybe Jalen Mbakwe comes back, but you're right. A lot of unknowns in this game. We do know Jalen Milroe is going to play, and most likely will be his last game in Crimson.
Yeah, that's the big one, Dave. I want to start there too as we dive into this matchup. Jalen Milroe, you mentioned. I mean, there's a lot of speculation out there. Will he go to the NFL? Will he hit the transfer portal? Will he come back? But I think most from what we've heard, Dave, and I don't think we're breaking any news here. I mean, from what we've heard, this is probably Jalen Milroe's last game at Alabama, which is just crazy to think about.
It's wild. I mean, accepted a Senior Bowl invitation with Jim Nagy and them. Yeah, it looks like he's probably going to be gone. What is Jalen Milroe's legacy in Tuscaloosa? Kind of, again, I don't think this game really has any impact. Right. Obviously, it only helps if you win, but I think Alabama fans are kind of like, at this point, whatever. The Citrus Bowl or ReliaQuest Bowl. Obviously, I'm saying Citrus Bowl. Back when they played Michigan the last time they weren't in the playoffs, right, CP? No. They played in the Sugar Bowl 2 years ago against Kansas State. But when it wasn't a CFP-type game and they were one of these – early, it was against Michigan in the Citrus Bowl in 2019. They were missing two of Mac Jones's first start. Yeah, what is his legacy? I'm asking my question. I want to ask you that. Like, it's not bad because it's tough to say. I mean, he won an SEC championship game, took him to the college football playoffs last year. So it's kind of tough to say it's bad. It's just there were some highs and there's some real lows as well. Go back to the Texas game last year where he ultimately got benched against South Florida the week after. Obviously, the Oklahoma game this year was just totally disastrous. His game against Tennessee and Knoxville this year, really bad. Had more bad games this year. I mean, it's not going to be bad. I think it's just going to kind of be like, it's not going to be what you've had with the previous quarterbacks in Mac Jones, Bryce Young, Tua.
He was just okay. He was just okay. I think the legacy will probably be a little bit frustrating if I'm being totally honest, because a guy that
could have been.
Yeah, had all this potential, and you saw flashes, but could just never. I will say this, though, to be fair to Jalen Milroe. He went through something that obviously nobody else did. He was the last quarterback of Nick Saban and the first quarterback of Kalen DeBoer. And so, I think I give Jalen Milroe a lot of credit for steadying the ship a little bit. He could have bailed last year when Saban retired, and he stayed and was that true leader. And I know Kalen DeBoer was very grateful for that and appreciative. So, I actually give Jalen Milroe a lot of credit for that. I don't know if he'll be remembered in the light that he probably should be. Because, I mean, I feel like, Dave, you correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like Alabama, I mean, what's your legacy if you don't win a national championship? I mean, it's
outside of Bryce Young, never won.
Yeah, outside of Bryce Young. Yeah.
But he won a Heisman, and I think most Alabama fans will contest. They didn't win They didn't not win a national championship because of Bryce Young. This is like Jalen Milroe. You could say you legitimately played so bad in Norman. We had everything to play for. Unfortunately for the kid, that's probably going to be a lot of people's lasting memory. But at the same point, if you're looking at it as a big picture, 35,000-foot view for his whole career, and he did win an SEC championship in Nick Saban's last season as well.
Yeah. So, and in this game, I would expect, too, we talk about motivation factors, Dave, and I think it's very fair to question, especially from the Bama side. Like, again, we've talked about some of these teams, they go to these bowl games, they're excited at the opportunity and what it means for them. And some other teams, you put them in that same exact situation, they'd rather be anywhere else. And so, I for Alabama as a whole, that is something that concerns me, if I'm being totally honest. Like, how fired up is Alabama to be there? But I think Jalen Milroe is going to be fired up. Like, I think Jalen Milroe, and I think when your leader is playing and he's your quarterback, and I do think if there's anything that makes me feel a little bit better about the fact that Bama will approach this game the right way and put their best foot forward with the guys they have. The fact Jalen Milroe is giving it a go, and I trust his leadership abilities, that leads me to believe, at minimum on the offensive side, that they will give it their best shot.
There's something to be said here, too, CP Frank. Your captains are all playing in this game. And I think, again, Alabama is not accustomed to playing in games that are not meaningful this late in the year. All the kids that have played for Alabama the past 15 years, I mean, Nick Saban had that streak going. If you stayed all 4 years, you won at least one national championship. That's not the case for these graduating guys, but you still have Tyler Booker. He said, if Alabama's suiting up to play a football game and I have eligibility, I will be playing no matter who we're playing and where. He's playing. Jahad Campbell, he's playing. Jalen Milroe. The three big-time captains are all playing. None of them, I think, even remotely thought about sitting out. So tip of the cap, that's kind of a culture thing to me. Like, hey, no, if Alabama's playing, if we're playing a football game, I'm out there playing. I'm a captain. Got to get that legacy going. But, I mean, we can go back and look at this game a little bit. Jalen Milroe didn't have success against this Michigan team last year. Now, granted, different coordinator. Jesse Minter has moved on. Now it's Wheat Martindale. Obviously, Tommy Reese isn't the offensive coordinator for Alabama anymore. It's Nick Sheridan and Kalen DeBoer. So you got different coordinators, same uniforms. That'll be an interesting dynamic from that perspective. But again, going back, Jalen Milroe was not great in the Rose Bowl last year. That was a big reason why Alabama lost. I mean, going back to the whole, what is Jalen Milroe's legacy? When Jalen Milroe played well, Alabama didn't lose. They don't lose, but his floor is so low at times that he can be the reason Alabama's lost some of their bigger games they've had in the last 2 years because of him.
Malachi Moore is also going in this game, right?
Yeah,
he's also going.
That's what I'm saying. They got their guys that are their older veteran guys.
4 guys, yeah.
Out. Like, so give them a little bit of a credit from that. So they've been doing that really since obviously they've really gotten this thing rolling the past 15, 17, 20 years. Where hey, again, they haven't been in a lot of meaningless bowl games, but when they've had, even 2 years ago in the Sugar Bowl, Bryce Young, Will Anderson, all those guys played in that Sugar Bowl when they dismantled Kansas State. So there's a pride thing to no, man, there's a standard. When we suit up, we're going to play. I think they put their best foot forward as much as they can. Again, depth will be somewhat of an issue, obviously, for both teams.
You look at the Michigan side, Dave. This is a team that obviously depends on running the football. Khalil Mullings was their leading rusher against Ohio State, 116 yards in that 13-10 upset win over the Buckeyes. Davis Warren, their quarterback, he threw for just 62 yards in the football game. Dave, is it as simple as if you stop Mullings, you stop Michigan? Because, I mean, even with some of the troubles that Kane Womack and the defensive side have had, I mean, if they're going to if they're going to ask Davis Warren to throw the football, I don't think you're going to see a lot of success. So, I mean, is it as simple as you stop the running game for Michigan, you stop Michigan as a whole offensively? And I mean, can Michigan win a game if they have to score? I mean, God, if Bama scores 20 points, is it a guaranteed W? I mean, I don't know how Michigan's going to move the football is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Even with Alabama, you've been able to run on the interior of them like you've been able to Georgia recently. And I think some of that scheme and them giving it up to limit explosive plays. But like you mentioned, Michigan's not a team who produces explosive plays. So I think you can add that extra hat into the box, that Husky position for Alabama. Maybe it's Bray Hubbard to get an extra helmet in there to help with the run game. Because you're sitting there, you're like, yeah, we have some young. I mean, Alabama has some young secondary guys, and Xavier Brown, and obviously, I mean, Damani Jackson's not a young cat, but Xavier Brown, true freshman. You have some guys back there who are young, but who are the weapons for Michigan to take advantage of that? That's where you're a little bit like. That's why I think if you're Kane Womack, you're probably going to load that box and just be like, hey, we're going to sell out to the run, and if you beat us over the top once or twice, so be it. I just don't think you can consistently do it for 60 minutes.
And then I think the other side, Dave, we mentioned already, though. I mean, Jalen Milroe against that Michigan defense, a fantastic Michigan defense, I might add. You're going to have Ryan Williams, at least as of right now, he's going to be playing in this football game. Some of your top playmakers should be available. So, but it's all going to come down to the play of Jalen Milroe. I mean, it has all year for Alabama. When he's been good, they play well and they win. And when he doesn't play good, they lose. I mean, it's just bottom line. So I think also getting the running game going, using Jalen in the running game when he's taken off and run the football, that's when he's been most effective. That's when the offense has been most effective. But I am excited to watch that matchup with the Alabama offense against a really stingy Michigan defense.
No, I agree. Different DC than last year. I mean, Jesse Minter did a phenomenal job with them. Now he's with Jim Harbaugh over in L.A. with the Chargers. Now it's Wink Martindale. We'll see what he kind of brings to this table. I mean, he looks like a Michigan DC. Go look him up, man. Looks like he's got a big dip sitting there in his back, just spitting out on there on the turf, sunglasses. Lookks like he's just waiting for a cold beer right in the locker room after him have a big cheeseburger. I mean, he looks like a defensive coordinator, and he's done a solid job this year. Now, the loss of Mason Graham, again, interior defensive lineman, I'll go to the grave, are more disruptive, more important to defenses than edge rushers. You can scheme against edge rushers. It's tough to scheme if the guy's just kicking your center and guard's ass all night. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, we can't move all three of these guys on him. Then the edges will matter. So, I mean, I think that will be key in that. I think Bama's got the advantage right now because they got all three of their interior guys playing. I mean, Alabama's like missing a starter on the offensive line there, and they've kind of been weak at the tackle spots at times. But that interior where Parker Brailsford coming over from Washington at the center spot, Jaden Roberts over there at the right guard spot has been iffy this year. And I think Tyler Booker's been the best offensive lineman in the entire league and maybe even country over there at the left guard spot. So I think Bama, especially with Mason Graham in a unit they're familiar seeing different schemes to some extent, but still.
I know Tyler Booker, a guy, obviously, Dave, you've been very high on this season, have talked a lot about, and, of course, that interior, the offensive line for Bama will be key in this one. That being said, Dave, let's go ahead and lock in our predictions, our picks for this game. I will start. as I mentioned, I'm not going to front. I'm not going to lie to you, Dave. The motivation factor for Alabama in this one scares me. I think it's a game Alabama should win. Michigan with a great job down the stretch, beating their arch rival, Ohio State, which ironically enough, Ohio State still gets in the college football playoff, but Michigan with 4 straight wins over their arch rival. So they've got some momentum. They feel good. I think Alabama's just a better football team top to bottom. There's a part of me that wants to go Michigan because, again, I do question, like, how fired up is Bama to be here. But you did mention, too, though, Dave, the standard and the expectation and what that script day means. And I think the fact Jalen Milroe is playing in this football game, and you mentioned so many of the core guys, the core leaders, it's going to be a different look Bama team with all the opt-outs. And, I mean, who knows? We got 2 weeks at the time of recording this until that game. We could see even more. But the bottom line is this. I think you've got the heart and soul of your football team in Jalen Milroe. For everything that he hasn't been this year at times, he is that. He's the leader of this group. I think he'll give Alabama enough. I think it's going to be a lower scoring, kind of sloppy game, if I'm being totally honest, Dave. I think the motivation will be there for Bama. I don't know that it's a very well-played game, but I think Bama will outlast Michigan. I think Michigan actually covers in this football game. And, again, I think what's going to be a low-scoring slugfest, may get a little bit of boring at times, but Alabama gets the win. They get the double-digit wins yet again in Kalen DeBoer's first season, winning the ReliaQuest Bowl. Give me Crimson Tide 17, Wolverines 13. Again, I think it's a low-scoring game, tighter affair than most are expecting, but Jalen Milroe gets a win in his final game at Alabama as a starting quarterback. He goes out the right way, and I think the way he deserves to go. And, again, I think Bama gets a hard-fought win down in Tampa.
Yeah, another thing I wouldn't tell you, you remember Michigan just hired Chip Lindsey from North Carolina. We're all familiar at SEC. Was OC for Gus at Auburn. I worked with him at UCF and Auburn briefly when I was at both those schools. But he just came over from North Carolina with Mac Brown getting fired. He just got hired by Sharon Moore in Michigan to be the OC. And even Michigan fan, he'll be there helping with the portal. He'll be there helping. He'll be at practice. And I even see some Michigan beat writers saying they're unsure if he's going to be involved in the game plan or not. Yay or nay, they don't know. So that's another dynamic. He's from the state of Alabama, from the Huntsville, Muscle Shoals area. So that'll be an interesting dynamic. I'm with you. I think Alabama has too many pieces. Both teams are missing some of their key guys. I don't know who's calling the plays for Michigan. It's already a very clunky type offense. So, I mean, if you have this kind of half-ass put together offensive game plan going into this, what's that really going to be? Alabama's got enough contributors on defense coming back. Kane Womack will be there. This means something, I think, a little more to Alabama to get to that 10th win. Again, they've won 10 or more games now since going back to 2007. They've won 10 or more games in every season, double-digit wins, impressive streak. I don't know. I think Alabama just has a little bit more pieces when you factor in, like you said, Malachi Moore. I know Devontae Smith entered. He's going to Notre Dame. But you got Bray Hubbard. You got Jahad Campbell wanting to play there. Justin Jefferson. You got some of the captains. Again, Tyler Booker on the interior. Jalen Milroe playing. I think it's going to mean something a little bit more to Alabama. It will always be pretty, like you mentioned, Chris. I kind of feel with you a little bit. Early morning, sloppy game. And remember who kind of wakes up and wants this game a little more. I think ultimately Alabama comes out. Again, I don't think they cover, but I'm taking it by that hook is just going to hurt you if you're taking Alabama. It's at 10.5 right now. I think Alabama wins something like 24-10. It needs to be 24-10, something like that. They'll give up maybe one explosive play. That's not good news for Kane Womack if this Michigan offense without an OC. Hell, I mean, you're talking, we don't know who's calling the plays, and they're already clunky. That'd be a bad way to go into 2025 if you're Kane Womack. I expect a pretty solid defensive performance against a lackluster offense in Michigan. I think Alabama just outlast. Again, it's not going to be pretty, maybe a game people turn the other channel to at some point. But again, it's a big helmet logo game. People love seeing the crimson helmet going against the wings, the Michigan helmet. Love seeing the maize and blue. Love seeing the crimson and white. So it'll be a fun matchup. Rematch from the Rose Bowl last year. Obviously, not the circumstances still in the line. Not a national championship game appearance. But I think Alabama gets the 24-10 win in Tampa in the ReliaQuest Bowl.
And you mentioned, Dave, one last thing before we close it out. I do think for Kane Womack, it's a big game. I mean, to your point, it's there's already a lot of mixed feelings on him. Year one in his DC there.
Yeah, you let TBD OC go out there and go put up some points on you, that would be really bad.
Could be uncomfortable feelings going into year 2 of the Kalen DeBoer era. But again, guys, you agree with us? Do you disagree? How do you see this one playing out when Alabama and Michigan do battle in the ReliaQuest Bowl? Guys, that's going to do all for us. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Again, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast where you get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. For Dave Shumate, I'm Chris Phillips. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in, and we will catch you on the other side.